For those of you who didn't hear it before, we're excited to have Sebastian speak. He brings a wealth of expertise, both from working in the EdTech sector before joining AWS. And again, this is going to be just in general. He's going to talk about the powerful AWS cloud and how it can be deployed, higher ed, K-12, how it could support not only your internally oriented employee administrative solutions, but how that same platform can be used and repurposed for student-facing apps. So this should be a great half an hour session. Really appreciate your time, Sebastian. Keep coming up with the questions. After his presentation, I'll do another $50 gift card. Then we're really excited to have Checkpoint talk about their security. We'll have US Cloud and Matthew Harris talk about how they support Microsoft applications, and finish up with a different talk all about how technology can facilitate the development of social emotional skills amongst your students. So again, it's a strategic initiative that I think will be a nice way to finish up what is, hopefully everyone's enjoying this compelling session with industry leaders on this important area of our economy. And I'm biased. I've got 3 kids in high school. I want to know about this so I can give better guidance to my school district. All yours, Sebastian.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you for the introductions. And hello again, everyone. And just wanted to share what I observed over the last year working with our education customers. There were some leading trends, and I want to share those stories and really what approaches the organizations took to successfully overcome those challenges. So I'm going to start with just discussing the general what's leading, and that's certainly focuses on hybrid and remote learning. Our remote work and learning solutions have been a real big savior, I would say, over the last year and a half to help the organizations both get up to speed and offer those solutions, as well as save costs. So my last portion of the discussion is going to be around, what are the best practices we have observed organizations adopt to be able to stay under budget? So as you all know, we have observed many educational institutions shifting academic instruction to a virtual format. And as organizations use the cloud to create and scale remote learning solutions, one of their biggest challenges that they have voiced is really creating custom, engaging, and secure virtual classroom. So really educators and students alike are struggling with that. And on top of that, today's students are increasingly more mobile. And based on the technology development initiatives and priorities, the educational organizations are prioritizing the development of those remote and hybrid models. So I've seen that as a leading trend, obviously, over the last year and a half. So organizations themselves are working remotely. They're on the go. And they're really moving from one project to the next. This is pushing organizations to look for more efficient options for employees to work securely. So we have the employees, we also have the students, obviously. They have to attend classes virtually. And on top of that, we have challenges for other departments like the call centers and the call center agents that can no longer go into the contact center or they just need the flexibility of being remote. And more organizations are looking for those options because they give them the efficiency as well as they give them the flexibility. So we hear those questions over the last year. I would say, I've heard it over and over. How do I enable my employees and students to remotely access the applications they need? This has came up quite a few times with my educational customers, and we have found a solution that I want to discuss on how we help those customers achieve that goal. I also then focus on how do we communicate more efficiently? How do we do audio-video conferencing at scale? How do we connect that to our learning and management systems? And also at the end, how do we help the students make sure that their experience while working with those systems and working in those environments, how can we ensure that the experience is of high quality? So we're going to talk about contact center operations. So I'll start with discussing the challenges organizations voiced when connecting employee and teams. Really, this was the kind of the back office situation where you had to connect your team, your employees to their desktop resources. And we're helping institutions not only connect students, obviously, but also the faculty and staff. And this ensures your business continuity, also gives you the flexibility. So Amazon Workspaces is a managed and secure desktop as a service solution, and it helps you, your mobile teams, your remote employees, and your students really access applications from anywhere. And it delivers your full cloud desktop. So if you think about your desktop that you're accessing you can access that remotely. And I've personally been involved with an organization that was tasked with providing a secure environment for a remote technical team. So they have this need where they had to scale up, they had to build new functionality, but the team was actually remote, and they were struggling with their student data privacy. So they want to make sure that that data is protected in a way that they would protect it in their office. They want to minimize the cost, lower the maintenance overhead. The key was being able to deliver it remotely. And why are so many educational institutions deploying it? Well, obviously, it helps you eliminate many administrative tasks. So this is, the managing your desktop lifecycle, provisioning, deploying, maintaining, recycling desktops. This really, removes a lot of those needs. And there's less hardware inventory. So obviously, on top of the lower maintenance, you also have the cost saving. And also, when you deploy Amazon Workspaces, you are assuring that you have the security. You are deploying it within the Amazon Virtual Private Network. You provide each user with access to persistent encrypted storage, and you integrate it with our key management service to ensure that your data is encrypted. So really, no user data is stored on a local device. So this team I was working with, this was their key objective: make sure that student data is not being exposed. They want to make sure that it's protected in a way that essentially doesn't allow remote employees, remote teams to expose that data in a way that will leak. And obviously, all of that has to be done efficiently. So Amazon Workspaces is available in all of our 13 regions and provide you access to really high performance cloud desktops. So really eliminates the needs to overbuy desktops. Great cost saving, a really big improvement over managing hardware. And you probably ask, how do you connect to it? Very simple. You connect to a workspace from a supported device. And the great thing is you can actually deploy the client for Amazon Workspaces on Windows, Mac, Chromebooks, iPad, Fire tablets, even in the browser. So both Chrome and Firefox are supported. So imagine you're on the road, you need access to your desktops. You can literally launch a Chrome browser and log into your desktop. So again, big operational maintenance saving as well as cost saving. So I wanted to talk about who's using it. All organizations have deployed it. One of the Canada universities, Athabasca University, they're 100% open and online digital university, and 70% of its students are the first in their families to achieve a university degree. And this institution had to scale remote work access to their 180 staff across Alberta. And IT staff, the way they did it, they essentially wiped all the laptops that weren't being used and installed new operating system. They loaded them with the Amazon Workspaces client. Essentially, employees were able to take it with them. And within a few days, their staff could work remotely for the first time. So it was a very quick turnaround, literally kind of minimal overhead. And now they're looking into moving into fully remote applications. So they really like the benefit, the flexibility, and at the end, the cost savings. So I want to talk about students. So we can enable our employees to work remotely. Students are also looking for more mobile options. And we have Amazon Upstream that is fully managed application streaming service. And this allows you for your students to access the application they need on any computer, whether they're in a classroom, library, cafe, or home. And really, this allows you to securely access the desktop application from any device. So again, think about enabling some of the systems that maybe today are not portable, enabling those to be able to stream over Amazon Upstream. So you simply install and configure your application on Upstream the same way you would do a Windows computer, and you create essentially an image of that application. And then in a few clicks, you create a fleet of resources to your users, and you can start streaming those applications. So users get a version of the app, and you specify exactly which version it is that you want them to use. And you don't need to patch individual PCs. So this is a great way to also lower maintenance. If you have a lot of infrastructure to maintain with patching, this is a great way to essentially enable one specific version for your users. And obviously, this all leads to additional reductions in spending. So this is a pay-as-you-go model. You only pay for the resources you provision. And when you provision them, there's a small monthly fee per user, and it's actually reduced for qualified school, universities, public institutions, and there are no long-term contracts. Essentially, just pay for what you use. Very, very efficient model. And a great story we have 5 public schools in Washington, and they aspire to be the top-tier learning organization. They want all students being prepared for college, career, life. They're great institution, and they provide device for every kid in the district. So imagine distributing all those devices. You want to make sure that the students have a great experience and able to utilize all the applications. And while the kids automatically get access to some of the applications, there were still certain programs they weren't able to access, especially those in careers in technical education classes, those more specialized applications. So in addition to providing equitable access with Amazon Upstream, the district also turned the labs back into learning spaces. So now the students had access to the labs 24/7, and this saved the district money, obviously, lower building costs, while it gave the students a lot of flexibility. So students love that. Great story. So I'll also bring up a recent study. This was done recently of 2,000 undergraduate students. It was conducted by the Inside Higher Ed and College Polls, presented by Kaplan, that showed that despite the sentiment to return to in-person classes, most students still want to keep aspects of remote learning. Almost 80% want lectures made available online, and they wanted essentially those lectures for review. They want to be able to reference it later. I personally associate with that. My style of learning is to, pick up enough information to kind of get me going, but then later I want to go back and review some of this information. Obviously, keeping notes helps, but this is a great model to be able to offer the students high quality materials after the classes. And the team has used Amazon Chime, our collaboration communication service, to be able to build solution to meet, chat, and place essentially calls inside and outside the organization. And it's all using single applications. You create an environment where your students or your teams can collaborate. One thing that we have heard institutions that we're asking for is easy way to add that collaboration into the existing learning management system. So like Moodle, Canvas, Blackboard. I've heard that many times. Organizations have this great environment, but essentially there's missing functionality. So what we have looked at is really adding this functionality of collaboration using a standard. We use a learning tools interoperability standard, and this specification essentially prescribes an easy way to connect education applications and tools with platforms like learning management systems. So essentially what we did is created a solution, a virtual classroom experience to help educators and students easily navigate and participate in virtual classes. So this is a very kind of plug and play type of solution. It essentially allows you to add a plugin to your supported LMS system. Again, Moodle, Canvas, Blackboard requires a certain level of API support. Then you had a management center, essentially a web application where educators will be able to create and maintain those events. And then in the backend, there was an API essentially to help support the communication between Amazon Chime SDK and the Meetings API. And all wonderfully put together to offer a new experience for the students where within their LMS system, they could now collaborate. So really, really great solution. And the big success story here is BSmart. And BSmart is in Italy. And when Italy imposed those national quarantines, AWS worked with BSmart to provide students access to virtual classrooms. And this is an example of using the Chime SDK. And thanks to this new service, 30% of schools in Italy are now conducting their classes online. This works so well that the CEO of BSmart said that they were able to build multi-party video interaction capabilities of the virtual classroom within 8 days. So imagine, adding this new functionality almost instantly. Where you go from not being able to collaborate to having fully built-in functionality for your students. Great story. So another trend I want to talk about that I've heard over and over is really that resulted from increased reliance on learning technologies. So as we pushed our students, our faculty to use more and more of the online tools, we saw the need of essentially ensure the quality experience, ensure that we deliver a quality experience. So for students, I've heard many times that meant being able to get the support, essentially the help they needed when they were performing certain activities, and really that meant for institutions to be able to offer a better call center experience. And higher education institutions are turning to cloud to establish really that call center high quality experience that facilitates that growth curve for remote work and online learning. And Amazon Connect is our cloud-based self-service contact center, and you can set it up in minutes. So you can operate it from virtually anywhere. Contact center agents, supervisors, managers, essentially they can work productively from home and provide amazing customer service. Really, all you need is an internet connection and a headset. So this is a great way to increase the availability both of the staff as well as provide additional services. So there are a couple of items that I wanted to call out, which were just announced recently. Amazon Connect Wisdom, and it's a new feature, and essentially it reduces the time agents spend searching for answers. So if you think about it today, when agents require access to information to help a student, they usually lose time trying to navigate different data sources, different applications. They're looking for information. This could be FAQs, wikis, files. They're there doing the hard work of finding the information. So when using the Wisdom feature, agents simply enter a question or phrase in their agent desktop application, such as, what is the pet policy in this building? And Wisdom searches connected repositories, and it really returns the most relevant information. And it really, this speeds up the interaction. So finding information becomes a lot faster. And the second feature I wanted to mention that was recently announced is Amazon Connect Voice ID. So if you remember, how many times have you been through the authentication process when calling a contact center? And we've heard that from organizations that say that they have very critical time-sensitive events like delivering exams, where they really need to get that student up and running, help them as soon as possible. Right? So you want to shorten that initial authentication procedure, but you want to also maintain the security of it. So Voice ID simplifies this essentially to make voice interactions faster and more secure. It uses machine learning to provide real-time caller authentication. Think about kind of like a voice fingerprint. So it effectively recognize my name, like Sebastian. There's an enrollment phase. And after that, when I call the contact center, my Voice ID feature compares the sound of my voice with the one that I enrolled with. And this verification phase is shortened, right? So it only requires between 5 and 10 seconds of my voice to authenticate me. So imagine, instead of sitting through those different levels of interactions, you can shorten that time. You can provide the agent information a little bit sooner, essentially delivering that experience and help faster. So very critical in those time-sensitive engagements. And I've seen that happen quite a bit over the last year and a half as we shift over to remote delivery. The call volumes increase, but then the call centers are maybe not always prepared for that. So these are great features, essentially automating, adding additional intelligence to the process to be able to shorten that interaction. Great tools. And one of the good success stories here is the University of Arizona. And University of Arizona is focused on building IT operations that is scalable, responsive. They want to make sure that they can change according to their needs, and they want to grow and innovate. One of the initiatives, the goal is to be agile and responsive to students. And they adopted Amazon Connect in order to enable staff to receive calls on their computers or cell phones throughout the day. So imagine with a turn of the button, you're able now to have your staff participate in student discussions wherever they are. So they said that this was the executive director, Susan Legg, said that this was a lifesaver for University of Arizona during these unprecedented times. As you could imagine, when you have situations where you're forced for remote work, obviously that's critical. But even to offer flexibility for your staff, right? You can now create these additional methods of communication, and again, very quick to deploy. Within minutes, you can be up and running. I was actually on a call with a customer, and within 30 minutes, we're able to configure their backup call center. So what they were looking for is, as their volume increases of calls, they want to have a backup center. What happened to them before is, they lost connectivity in their primary center. They couldn't help students. So within 30 minutes, we're up and running. Within an hour, we created rules where we could direct to different agents based on which which type of event the student was calling about. For delivering specific tests, they had different agents handle different type of questions. So a great story of being able to very quickly get up and running. And one of the best parts here is it's pay-as-you-go model. So as you deploy these solutions, you essentially start with a zero billing footprint. So you could create an environment where if you don't use it, essentially there is no bill for it. This is very powerful in this backup scenario where this organization want to make sure that they don't incur additional cost of essentially duplicating the existing call center. And it really works so well. They are switching over to this to Amazon Connect as the primary center because they're able to add additional intelligence and additional tools to essentially shorten the interaction cycle with the students. So I wanted to talk about, if you decide to pursue this, what help do you have? What we hear a lot from our customers is our team is too small. We don't have the resources. We don't really have the skills necessary to build and deploy new tools. And really, that's a showstopper that we see that's constantly evolving, kind of a discussion where as you upskill your team, there's a new service, new feature. Again, you're in the same situation where you need to add additional knowledge to your team. So I wanted to talk about a few of the resources that you have available. And one thing I would recommend that as you look for resources, you start with your team, with your account team. So when you open an AWS account, you get an account team dedicated to you. And if you cannot get a hold of your account team, contact me. I'll be able to help you as well. I want to make sure that you have the information to get you started. But really, at the end, your account team is going to be able to guide you to the different services, different offerings to help you get the information that you need for your team. So I'm going to talk about a few of those. But actually, I'm often surprised how many additional programs we have and how many new programs we create to fit it exactly for what our education vertical needs. So I'm going to start talking about our core training and upskilling programs. And really, in addition to providing technologies, want to make sure that you have the education and the training to use those resources. AWS Educate is our global program, and it gives you, your students, educators, access to cloud resources. We offer resources off and online in 200 countries, and it's really a great global initiative to bring cloud content and resources to students and educators around the world. There's no cost content on the cloud. There's AI, cybersecurity available. Again, really, really key element of your organization's training. Another component I want to bring up, and this is really applicable for any organization that has a IT team, training and certification. So in order for us to stay up to date, we're constantly training, constantly upskilling. I do it constantly as well. This is just a nature of it. There are new services being released, new capabilities. I want to make sure that I can stay current. And in order to help organizations build those skills, essentially, being able to keep up with what's being offered, we have a training and certification resources. And these are designed by our AWS experts, delivered by our AWS staff and certified instructors, with skills enablement validated through 11 industry-leading certifications. So really what you're getting is kind of a one-stop shop to go and find the classes, the resources that you may need to get the initial training. Again, I would rely also on your account management team to tailor it. So if there are specific needs that your team has, the account team will be able to tailor the training programs to make sure that you get exactly what you're looking for. And last, I want to mention AWS Academy, and it provides higher education institutions with free, ready to teach cloud computing curriculum, and prepares students to pursue industry-recognized certifications and in-demand cloud job. So really, this is kind of an additional offering that we have for educators to stay at the forefront of AWS cloud innovation, so that they can equip the students with the skills they need to get hired in one of the fastest growing industries. So I wanted to focus a little bit more on the training certification. This is kind of close to me, close to my heart. I use it constantly. This is one of those resources where I will go in and see, well, let's see what's new. I have a subscription to the to announcements of new training, and I like to I like to stay current. I love education, both as a as a person that actually delivers technology, as well as actually me consuming the materials. And we offer a very broad range of training options. So one thing I would suggest is just going and checking it out, just really browsing through. We have a number of different delivery methods, and I like that because some of the materials I want to actually take a class with an instructor, and some of those I'm okay with just essentially doing a self-service type of delivery. So there is a lot of free digital training courses, so you can just go and browse, can filter it out by free versus maybe paid instructor-led. There are certifications obviously available. If you want to make sure your team has certain level of knowledge, you can set that as a goal. There are a lot of benefits of getting certifications with AWS. I'll talk to your account team. You can follow up with myself through LinkedIn. One of the biggest benefits is there are a lot of programs that will offer you essentially additional financial compensation for achieving those certifications. So it's a great way to motivate your team and then also get a little bit of a break on your bill. And also, if you don't know where to start, we have a needs analysis process where essentially we'll take a snapshot of your staff current skills, and then we customize the training plan to fill those gaps. So think about, you have various levels of knowledge across your team. We'll take a look at how your team is positioned. What are your initiatives for the next year? And we'll customize the delivery plan of the training. So you essentially kind of get a very, very tailor-fit training plan. And this will be both the training and certifications materials, as well as probably additional, maybe more customized sessions. So your account team will usually look at what are you building over the next 12 months, and then look at the team and fit together the training plan to get your team up to speed. So wanted to mention one of the best programs, one of the most amazing programs, EdTech, and in EdTech industry, it's a Headstart, and it's an AWS education technology virtual startup accelerator. And the reason why I like it so much because I was part of it. So before AWS, when I was in a startup organization, we took advantage of Headstart, and it was amazing. All of a sudden, it took us from being a small team and essentially not having the expertise, the resources, to being part of this larger community. And essentially gives you access not just to the AWS technology, but really also other education industry organizations. And that was huge. So being able to leverage the expertise, exchange information, and also get all of the AWS support. So this is a must-have resource for any early stage edtech startup. So as we are continuing to see an increased resilience on this electronic delivery of learning materials, students are continuously presented with more and more remote learning options. What's going to happen next? So obviously, no one knows for sure, but we see some trends, and we see that organizations are continuing to increasingly look for more efficient options for employees to work securely from any location, and for students to be able to have those hybrid options. And we see that organizations are focusing more to innovate, to figure out how to innovate faster. So this is a key trend. This has been kind of a waking moment where we realized, we don't have all the tools, all the solutions we needed for what have happened over the last year and a half. So this is kind of a change shift where we're looking for how do we do what we used to do, but a little bit faster. And we see a lot of our education institutions look for fully managed solutions. So really looking for that fully automated service just to offload essentially the undifferentiated heavy lifting from their team onto another platform, so that way they can focus on what's core, which is, for instance, an app development. Instead of worrying about the infrastructure, the team focuses now on app development, creating those new unique functionality features into the system. And alongside that, really gaining efficiencies. So one of the examples is performance efficiency. So being able to adopt new technologies. All of a sudden, as we talked about the call center situation, and being able to support students during exams, being able to shorten that authentication window. So use a new technology essentially to ensure that experience, even though you're not delivering the exam in person, you're delivering it remotely, the students have the help. They can raise the hand, they can ask someone for help that can guide them through this process of remotely taking the exam. So really taking advantage of those new technologies is key. And then last but not least, which is a segue to my next portion of discussion, is cost management. All of these solutions, they have been obviously driving cost, and all the organizations have kind of essentially looked at it from perspective, can I afford it? So really cost management has been key, and being able to take advantage of the cloud technologies obviously gives you an additional advantage. But once you actually get to cloud, you also need tool set and skill sets to support you managing the cost efficiently. So I want to talk about a few things that I have observed over last year that a lot of the educational institutions are taking advantage of. That kind of helps them essentially meet their budget goals. So just to summarize, we talked about enabling remote and hybrid learning solutions, and we see as the learning model shift, the cloud obviously offers the flexibility and scalability to meet student needs, and that results in the cost savings. We're also seeing the collaborative services allow for more flexibility, more remote options. Again, opportunities for saving. Upskilling your IT staff, it's kind of a known that if you have a highly skilled organization, if you're able to actually deploy to cloud, you have an opportunity for large savings. And on average, IDC projects that IT infrastructure teams will be 62% more efficient with AWS, and application developers will be 25% more productive. I certainly observed that. I used to develop. Years ago, I used to develop on hardware, just data center, and the process there was obviously more lengthy, and there were a lot of activities that I had to take care of that essentially detracted me from building the core functionality. So being able to kind of now offload it, and while the organization is putting the governance around how that's done, and being able to offload it where that's done for me, it's a big boost in productivity. So you really want to be able to give your team those tools to make sure that they're as maximized with their productivity as possible to reduce cost. And really the last point here, which I want to share a few of the tips, is reduce your infrastructure cost. So one is moving your IT services to the cloud can result in substantial cost savings. We have we have sort of teams and patterns of how you can efficiently do that. And this will help you essentially with that data center related cost saving. Once you're in cloud, you also need tools to be able to operate more efficiently. And I wanted to share a couple tips before we finish. So number one thing that I have noticed with our education customers is being able to track how you spend your money, know where your costs are coming from. And that's actually in the cloud, I would say, could be sometimes challenging because of just the nature of the elasticity and the agility of your team. So imagine now you gave your team those wonderful tools where they can, experiment, they can spin up new instances, and also you see that as students are moved into remote learning situations, that usage also sometimes skyrockets in a way that you have not been able to predict before. So really understanding that total cost, how your costs are trending, is a key. So in education domain, obviously, we often are faced with workloads that have these unexpected spikes, and we have seen that last year. This was the first school year after the pandemic started, and we're also seeing that kind of continuing this school year. We see that huge spike in usage at the beginning of the school year, and it's kind of, it's normal. What was unusual last year was just the volume and just the tremendous volatility of those spikes. So what organizations have told us is, we did expect the students to increase the usage of the service. We just didn't expect them to also change the usage patterns. So we have seen students now using applications on the weekends where they would usually use it Monday through Friday, and that caused additional spikes in usage. So be able to really put a hand on what's happening with your spend is a key. So we have a couple services that help you with that. And again, I'm just going to give you a quick reference. And the account team, again, will be able to help you, guide you to the process of establishing a practice where you'll be able to continuously track and improve your cost optimization. So those three tools, these are kind of my favorites because they're simple to use. So Trusted Advisor, starting from the left is the online tool provides you real-time guidance that helps you provision resources following best practices. So it's this engine that works behind the scenes, monitors everything that's happening, and gives you suggestions, how you can reduce costs, increase performance, improve security. Really, really great, almost a dashboard to have. You want to subscribe probably to those events. Then the next service, AWS Cost Explorer. This is really how you visualize your spend. This is reporting. You can schedule those reports. You can automate that process. But really, you want to go in there and analyze what's happening with your spend. And a great, easy to use interface. You can visualize your spend. You can understand exactly where your money is going into, and you can get started very quickly. There are a couple auto-generated reports, or you can create your own custom report. And what we see in a lot of education institutions that they didn't realize that the money all of a sudden, as the trends have shifted, is going somewhere else. So this is a great way to very quickly visualize. Oh, I see now my trend is, I'm spending somewhere else. I need to focus on optimizing that. And really, the last component of it is being able to right size. So as you identify where your money is going, you want to make sure that you have the right tools to put it back in line. And AWS Compute Optimizer helps you with right sizing. It really helps you with tracking what's happening in infrastructure. It gives you suggestions. So great way of ensuring that you are optimized. So couple last points. I want to leave you with a couple takeaways. So when you talk about cost optimization, there are a couple short-term things that you should really take a look at it. Really check what's happening. These recent spikes, recent over the last year and a half spikes, have caused a lot of organizations to kind of, essentially reevaluate how their funds are being distributed, and essentially make sure that you understand what's happening. So use those tools to track your spend, and then as you use those tools, we provide a lot of suggestions. So as I mentioned, Cost Explorer, Trusted Advisor, those suggest cost savings, and take advantage of those. Essentially, by purchasing savings plans, shifting your resources in a way that fits your usage. And these tools are great at tracking and essentially giving you a summary. Here's the amount that you're gonna save. This is the button you need to click to save that amount. Really great for saving money. And the last thing for short term is set budgets. So this has been very critical during the last school year, where we didn't know what is the pandemic going to do to our infrastructure. A lot of organizations said, well, I have no idea what kind of new volume of requests I will have to support. So budgets are a mechanism for you to essentially say, I'm expecting certain level of usage, and tell me if that's not the case, or also initiate an activity if I reach the budget, right? So you really want those safeguards in place, and you want to probably set them right away. Go into your account and say, I don't think I should be, spending more than this, and at least tell me about it. So good things to make sure you have in place. Long term, really you want to look at how you're using your resources, and look at what has been the pattern over the last year and a half. Can you predict that pattern? And if so, start implementing some of the scheduling elasticity tools. The best way also to do it is moving to serverless, right? Serverless is pay as you go, pay for what you use, and you don't pay anything if you don't use it. So this is great for those huge spikes. We have seen a lot of customers take advantage of it, because essentially during those downtimes, they're not spending money. There's no resources to provision. And then also on the opposite side, when there's a big spike, students come in, everyone needs to use the resources. The serverless infrastructure provisions automatically, so you're able to keep with that demand. Yeah, wanted to share a few of those tips, and really the stories from last year and a half. It has been a very eventful year, and I really appreciate you allowing me to share those.